the community.
So we're opening up the first Edutainment Resource Community Center. It's like if you put a school mixed in with Boys and Girls Club mixed in with like Apple. Just how the program grows as an overview. When we come in, and, the first week and say, hey, here's a composition notebook and a pencil. Write about yourself. We just want to see what you think about yourself as a human being, right? From those writing prompts, we then give that to our music research team and say, based off these writing prompts, what are their ELA issues and what are their SEL issues? So we can see both through just that one prompt. Yeah. Leaving a legacy for people to find and create more new things that we might not even see or have our lifetime to be here. I think that's our legacy.
But it showed me another route, and it showed me another way to where I could use my imagination and see other things another way for myself outside of what statistically.
Hi, I'm your host, Sienna Calderone with the Legacy Circle podcast, and this is season 2. This season, we are going to be focusing on education, and with us today is Jiren Small and Douglas Johnson from the Reading with the Rapper.
Hey, what's going down?
What's going on? We're happy to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So when I start the podcast, I really want to just have everyone introduce themselves. And before I get into that, I kind of came across Reading with the Rapper probably about like a year ago. And I think what really drew me to it, well, funny enough, I met like one of the graphic designers, I think that works with you guys, like at an event. And lo and behold, like full circle moment, like I'm now focusing on this. So it's funny to have you guys here. But if y'all can just introduce yourselves, just who you guys are, where you guys from, and why is education important to you guys?
Well, I'm Jiren Small. I'm from Houston, Texas.
I'm Douglas Johnson. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, by way of Albany, New York as well. And I've been in Houston for about 12 years.
Yeah, we met actually at Prairie View A&M University in 2009.
Yeah.
And we graduated shortly in 2012 with the eagerness to start our nonprofit because we were those kids that struggled to even get into school via our scholastic circumstances, our everyday environments, reality at home, just our overall experience in our environment just wasn't conducive for us to be the best version of ourselves in different ways. And we have two unique different stories. I don't know how much time we had to get into those particular paths, but I struggled with my standardized testing. My dad was an All-American in basketball. I lost all my scholarships to play basketball because of standardized testing. So being able to struggle to get into a university and then become the student body president within 2 years was a huge change for me. And I know you can share your side of everything too.
Yeah, so I struggled with standardized testing in high school as well. But I was always a very big reader. I was always considering myself an intellectual, even as a kid. But I grew up in an environment where that may not necessarily be cool. That's not something that you can really sport, wear as a badge of honor. So being in an environment like that where you have to kind of be somebody you're not necessarily, are as a person, I think that's what kind of created this, passion to want to make sure kids don't have to go through that and let them know that you can be you, dare to be you, at whatever cost that is.
You want to know how we met in college?
Yeah.
So it's 30-something degrees. And if you're at Prairie View or any HBC, HBCs are only in the hood or the woods. Prairie View's hood woods. You kind of get both. And it's 30-something degrees in the wilderness. And it's, I'm from Houston, from the South, so 30 degrees, it's cold. I'm walking to class. I see this young man walking. And I'm like, he ain't got no jacket on. He got shorts on. He got a
big chillin'
rosary on. He got a fedora. He just super New York. Me being the Southern guy that I am, I walked up to him like, hey man, are you okay? Do you need clothes? I can help you. And he was like, can we use cuss words? He was like, bro, you don't know who the fuck I am? I was just like, whoa. You know what I mean? I was just like, why are you so? But that's my first time encountering somebody from New York. Yeah. So it was a culture shock. I didn't understand being kind is actually weak to him in his eyes. So we exchanged words, ended up going to class, ended up having the same class.
Yep.
Same class.
Normally, somebody's being nice to you, it's usually out of some form of disrespect. So it sounds very weird,
crazy
in Texas, but people don't really just take lightly to like kindness. It sounds weird.
I can relate to that. I mean, I know that it's more of an extreme in New York.
Yeah, it's more of an extreme. Yeah,
but being from San Francisco, like, and coming to Houston, I think even just people, it's so funny, like little interactions, like being at the supermarket and people actually like people that work there, like actually talking to their coworkers and like really having fun and like, oh, how are you doing? Like, how's your day? I'm like, oh, either I'm too introverted or this is just the norm, like to be friendly, you know?
Yeah. And it took me a little while to get used to it.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it now. Like it's okay to be nice to people. Smile and say hi.
The fact that that's even like a thought is
say hello. Like, wave at people as you're walking by them. And like I do that. I make a point to do that now just because I never did it as a kid. So
that's how we met. We were both comm majors and marketing minors, and we were tied to the hip ever since then. Literally.
Wait, so why HBCU?
I mean, for me, my mother went to Prairie View, and she was like, this is where you're going. I already enrolled you. It's not too far from the house. I'm like, this is crazy. It's too close to the house. Why do I want to go to Prairie View? You know, being ignorant to some of the stats that they would talk about Prairie View, it has the most AIDS or stuff like that. So it had this negative notion where I just didn't want to do it. But I was actually supposed to go to Southern University to go play basketball, but this is like post-Katrina. So my mom was like, we drove down there 8 hours, get there. My mom was like, all right, something like Katrina happens again. What's the contingency plan? They didn't have one. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to stay here. So she's like, I already enrolled you at Prairie View. So we literally drove back. I was so mad. And I went to Prairie View. I saw the freshman dorms, like, I'm in. Because I was sharing a bathroom with one person. So our freshman dorms are set up like apartments.
Yeah.
Well, most freshman dorms are not like that, right? So that alone, I was just like, whoa. I don't need to see this person on the other side of the room. There's a bathroom in the middle of us.
Yeah.
I'm in.
When you go to a lot of other colleges, like over the years, we can see now how spoiled we were at Prairie View. Like we had really nice facilities for an HBCU, and even for a PWI, to be honest with you. So, but for me, like I played football in high school. When I did my last 3 years of high school in the Dallas area, coming from New York, that's where my dad lived. And playing football, I had some opportunities to play football after. And I knew but that's something I didn't really want to do. I wasn't super in love with the sport. I was good at it, but that's not what I wanted to. I preferred to use my mind, and I didn't really want to be stuck playing the sport in college where I had to. I preferred to I was like, give me the loans. I'm just gonna go figure it out. Let me do my thing. So I did that, and I went around to some tours for football, but also scoping out like where could I actually go. I went to Texas State and a couple other schools, but I got to Prairie View, and I was there for like Pantherland Day, where they had all the bells and whistles, and I was like, you know what? I think this works. That's literally, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna stay here. It kind of sold me just that day, just the environment and the people, because I thought at first I wanted to go to a more diverse school. But going to Prairie View, you just felt like, nah, I think I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. And I think hindsight 2020, I was very much supposed to be here.
Yeah, I think PV was like the catalyst for what we're doing now. It kind of all sparked at Prairie View. So like while we were there, DJ Mr. Rogers, who's a really big known DJ in the state and country, right? He's enrolled.
Yeah.
DJ Chose, he's in high school, DJing the parties on college. St. Chris, he's up there dancing, right? Kirk O'Banks enrolled with us as freshmen. So this whole boogie phase, Dero,
Party Boys,
like
it was
Stuff,
all there.
That. We were literally watching them make it in real time on campus. So we're seeing all of this, and we're just like, yo, this is crazy. And I think to Doug's point, I wanted to go to a diverse university, and I realized even going to HBCU, Black people are not monolithic.
Yeah.
So it's super diverse. Because I was just like, yo, bro, we're all different. We talk different. We eat different food. It was a culture shock of just seeing our own people. So I think, to Doug's point, it was just like, it just made sense. It was a frequency and culture that just like was just very, what's the word I could say? It was just very
captivating.
Yeah.
It captivated you. Yeah.
Almost like you floated to it or something.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's funny because like I don't feel that my college experience was a little different, but I would like my first year I went to University of Colorado in Boulder,
Yeah.
a predominantly white school, and so for me it was a culture shock. I mean, I went to also predominantly white like high school, but like going to Colorado, I still was used to like seeing some sort of diversity, or my friends were always very diverse. And so when I went out there, it was I remember I joined like a couple clubs, and like one of them, 'cause I wanted to be an engineer. I don't know why. And I went to, it was like a Hispanic engineering club, and I felt like I stuck out so much, or in my head, I was seeing people that either looked like super white and like didn't appear Hispanic.
Yeah.
And then you had people that were like straight from Mexico. And I was just like, where do I fit? Like I'm in between. Like where does but like looking back at it now, it makes me think about like who I am and my experiences just through school. And my experience, I didn't necessarily see teachers that looked like me growing up. Like even like through elementary school, which I was like, it was inner city, it was in San Francisco, and like I still didn't see teachers like look like me. But when you're a kid, you're not aware of these things, or it's not, you don't really care. But then as I got older and I started seeing like mentors or even try to even understand what that even meant, and I was like, dang, I don't really think I ever really had somebody that I felt like I could look up to aside from like my mom. And I didn't really feel like I had, or even somebody that looked like me, of a mentor. So right now that I'm so focused on like education, one of the things that I was thinking about with my kid being born, my kid is biracial. He's mixed he's Black and Latino. And so I wonder about his experience in him being at school, or even the thought of like public school. Like it's so weird to me. I'm almost like, should I homeschool my child?
I mean, what makes it weird to
It's
you?
not weird at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I went to private school up until like second grade, just to get like all the foundational stuff like figured out. But my mom and dad was like, you need to go have some street savvy. Go to public school. You know what I mean? Have some social skills.
Exactly.
Right? Because once you get out of college, it's life. Public school kind of reflects that a little bit, right? If they don't have a little bit of other on them, it might actually be kind of productive that they didn't get that type of environment at some point. So like I think every aspect of school is important for a person because you're always like forever learning. That never really stops. But like, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Like even for me, like I did a little bit of both. I did a lot of public school, and I went to a Catholic school. I went to Catholic school. So I went to Catholic school as well, for sprinkled throughout elementary, middle school, and not high school. High school was all public. But between elementary and middle school, I was kind of shifting back between public school and elementary school, public school and Catholic school probably every year, every 2 years. So, and that was like a crazy experience as well, but it did kind of give me a well-rounded experience of, because either way, it was very inner city either way.
Yeah.
One just had religion classes. It was kind of the same.
Well, so bringing up that, because like it's like, okay, I had religion classes, right? And when I'm thinking about kind of like what you guys are doing, and I was thinking about like, why would a school say no to the program, or just kind of like, what are things that maybe like you guys are experiencing, or why, there's these opportunities for education to be different, right? And I think about, we have time for religion classes. There's nothing against that, but where's like some of these classes that teach us about real life?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's two questions to that. The first one wouldn't even be like where, it would be like, why are you giving more access to religion versus the other things?
Yeah.
Right? And then like, I don't know how deep you want to go with that.
Oh yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
You know what I mean? So when you think about like indoctrination and making sure people understand a specific lane or something, right, which feeds into a bigger business, it's more lucrative. There's more returns on me indoctrinating you because you'll probably stay in this system a lot more longer, right? To spend more money and do all those things. And if you teach them about real life and making them independent critical thinkers, they start to piece things together that don't make sense. Yeah. Right? And I think the education system, Doug and I really realized really quickly, starting all this like 12 years ago, that it's not designed to actually empower people.
Yeah.
That's not its goal.
That doesn't benefit the system.
No.
Right.
People don't even ask, why was it even made? Do you even know why the education system was even made? Industrial period, warehouses. We need employees at large. We don't need them to be smart. We need to do just enough so we can train them to work.
Well, and then there's the side of, I mean, I don't want to go as deep into it, but there's also the side of when people did colonize and it was to teach about
100% indoctrination, same thing.
So now I want to kind of pivot off of that, but for what you guys are doing, because I'm sure you got in the why is it rap specifically? Where is that? Are you trying to teach our kids about rap culture? Are you trying to, promote that? What do you guys say to that?
Nah, man, it's not. It's completely the opposite. When people think about reading rap, they're like, those rappers reading books or they breaking down. These rappers are coming in. It's not even. It's almost like Genius Bar meets literacy. So like we're literally working with artists. We're creating new formats of content that can not only entertain them, but educate them to evolve them. So we're working with artists to create lyrics and songs and content that can really move the needle and create impact. So they're studying, breaking down their words, what they're saying, learning inferencing, mood and tone, freedom of language, sentence structure, right? And on top of that, we're helping them develop their social emotional learning through the music and the content and tech, because a lot of these artists, when you look at their albums, they're more like audiobooks. The authors, they're telling a story that some of these kids are actually going through in real time. Well, so it's super relatable, right? And then at the end of the day, when you have the problem walk in and say like, hey, this isn't real. Now the kids be like, hey, wait, what do you mean? We chose rap because that's what all the kids listening to. Yeah. Right? It's the most listened to music globally. Yeah. Can't deny that, right? But our goal is to go like music genres all over. So reggaeton, country, Latin, like everything, right? But we're starting with the most popular out of the bunch first, because we understand what gets them excited, right? Scientifically and all those things. So when you say in our classroom, you can use music, you can use your phone, we're going to have this lights turned down, it's going to look like a club in here. Their minds are already like, what are we doing? Right? So they're engaged versus us trying to get you to even want to come to school first. So we're using the things they love to draw them back in, meeting where they are.
I will say when I was seeing, at first, I didn't understand the concept of like, painting the room. And I was like, and then I started to kind of, it does make sense. So, because it is your environment. Even like if you're trying to work, you need to go to a cafe, not be at your house. Like, so it does make sense. And just I think one of the things too that I've been talking to some teachers, and the biggest thing that I've been hearing is the engagement, and it's gone down after COVID. So, off of that, like when the kids first start this program, like what's their attitude around them? Like, what's the vibe? Like, what are they saying? Like, how are they interacting?
They're immediately engaged and they're immediately excited because they're actually giving something different. Because a lot of times if you go in one classroom, you've been in them all, whether the environment or the curriculum. So when they have the opportunity to do something different and it remotely, even an ounce, uses some of the things that they like, they're automatically in. But when they actually get into it and they're actually see how deep it goes and how they're actually getting to listen to music, they get to use headphones, they get to use their phones, they get to write about things that they like and not something that they're being told to write, or read this and tell me about it. But you're getting all of those same concepts, but through something that you like and that you enjoy. So the feeling is entirely different. So when you feel good about something, you want to do it, right?
Yeah, on top of that, like just how the program grows as an overview, when we come in and, the first week can say, hey, here's a composition notebook and a pencil, write about yourself. We just want to see what you think about yourself as a human being, right? From those writing prompts, we then give that to our music research team and say, based off these writing prompts, what are their ELA issues and what are their SEL issues? So we can see both through just that one prompt. Yeah. Then we say, okay, based off all of that, we're going to go partner with an artist and we're going to create a curriculum project. So we actually own our own format of content. So you got LPs, EPs, we created CPs. So CPs are curriculum projects. So we're going to make a curriculum project that combats all of that, right? So now for 2 weeks on the academic lesson plans, they're going to go through how they're structurally or not writing about themselves. So it could be inferencing or whatever that ELA issue is, right? Yeah. So after we go through those 2 weeks of lesson plans with the content and the music and tech, you come back and write about yourself again. So we see instant growth of how you structurally are writing now, right? We're fixing that issue. For another 2 weeks, what is this artist talking about? Is that a reason why you don't want to come to school or why you're getting in trouble? But making the content the medium for the conversation, right? Then you come back and write about yourself again. So we see instant growth of how you socially think about yourself. So really the student over the 7 to 8 weeks is discovering themselves through the culture, right? And if they've been studying Bun B for 8 weeks, Bun B walks into the room. Talk about why he wrote the CP, how it's important to him if he couldn't read and write, how he couldn't like be an entrepreneur to make trill burgers and all these overlapping things because of literacy and those things. So like that, it's a full holistic perspective that supports the students at a high level, no matter if they're special ed, kids with low literacy, kids with high disciplinary actions. It's no matter where you are on the literacy spectrum, it's designed to help you. And that means adults, that means families, that means it's ageless, right? Because it's a human problem, not a social problem. And so when we do that, it's like, it's very disruptive, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Like we may surprise the classroom. They might go to lunch and their room is like really dark, and they come back, it's all red, all blue. They like, yo, what's going on today? We over here doing English. They like English. You know, their minds are already just moving just off of how we scientifically set everything up.
So, okay, so first things first, how, so a school approaches you guys? Or how does
now
that?
they are.
Yeah, now they are. It wasn't like that in the beginning.
Yeah,
It was
I
not.
imagine.
We was driving around, talking
for
to
free.
principals, talking to superintendents, giving it to them for free, doing demonstrations. And that was for about 2 years, 2.5 years straight. But before we can get people to start turning over.
Yeah.
But now they're coming to us, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
that
okay.
data.
Age group.
Right now, we're as early as 3rd grade all the way to 12th. And by fall 2025, we'll have pre-K all the way to 12.
Okay. And then as far as funding, like the school funds it themselves or how does that
You get into some good stuff.
work?
So that's a couple ways.
Yeah.
The schools are paying us directly. The county and the city are paying us directly.
Okay.
The companies are paying us directly. So in theory, everyone's paying us.
That's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem.
Okay. So we have, I'm a student, I'm going to this. And what's the time frame? It's like what, 6-8 weeks?
8 weeks,
Okay.
2 days out there. So if you're in a school model, that's more of a wholesale, right?
Yeah.
So it's designed to be either during your regular class period or after school. The school has to tell me how they want to like really roll it in, right? Because they know the kids better than we do.
Yeah.
We're just saying we know how to speak to them better, right? But you know them. So it's designed to be an hour class, 30 kids, 1 teacher, like a regular class period.
Yeah.
We're coming in, normally we come in and we support the teacher that's already there. We train them and pay them extra.
Okay.
So we're now helping teachers now, right?
Yeah.
Give them something they want to actually teach about, right? So now we're not just helping the kid, we're helping the kid and the teacher. And we helping administration because now we're helping increase enrollment, attendance, which brings equity back to these home schools. Yep. People don't understand that funding comes from enrollment and attendance, not the test. Passing the test does not bring any funding to the schools. If anything, the schools are paying for the test to take it.
Well, it's fun. Okay, just to go off of that real quick. It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, I heard, I was just thinking the other day, or I was looking at something, and the school is a foundation of the community, right?
100%.
You think about when you have homeowners mind, is it a good school district?
100%.
You think about when you have businesses, cafes, restaurants, whatever, is it near a school or there's a lot that goes into it, parks, all these things.
Yep.
So tell me about some of like the schools that you were targeting at first. Like why were you targeting these schools and what were some of like the bigger issues that you were seeing?
I mean, a lot of times in the beginning, we would go to low-income schools, Title I schools, Just because based off our data, we were seeing how better the students were getting. We're seeing 90% increases, 66% increases in standardized testing. So we were like, no, we got to get this to where they need it the most. So that was our big focus in the very beginning. And as we continued on that journey, we saw that like Jiren said, is for everybody. Because no matter if you go to a Title I school or if you're in an affluent school, this can work for you, and there's a benefit for you.
Yeah.
But to your point earlier, the school is the nucleus of a community. Home values, where you're going, businesses, like you said, banks, grocery centers, they all decide if they're going to do business there around the schools, how good they are, how bad they are. And they buy into those standardized testing to use that data to get more people to come there. So if you're able to do that on your own as like an independent program, you're essentially doing the same thing that the state's doing, right?
Exactly. So let me ask you this, like, have principals, teachers, like, is there a talk or conversation of like, maybe we should kind of, I mean, now I know this has to do more with the school board as far as like how some of these schools function, but like, is there a conversation of like, maybe we should do the curriculum a little differently? Or
I mean, you have some that buy in, you have some, when you think about innovation, it's when you first encounter innovation, you may not even know what it is if it's slapping you in your face. Right? So sometimes I think we're stuck in the idea of change. And then when the change comes, you're like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. I didn't want it that fast.
I didn't know it was coming this quick.
Yeah. So that was kind of tough at the beginning, but we're in a position now where we're giving out the grants. We're not asking you. So when we come do the business with the school, that's directly already with the superintendent of the district. We're not even going through the whole negotiating with the principal. Yeah. We're talking to the main person that says yes or no. So it's disseminated down because we're consulting for the district. We're telling them, like, based off our process and workflows, we're going to increase enrollment, which is going to make you more money. Right? So then, as soon as they hear that, they be like, yo, whatever you want to do, right? Because to be real with you, it's not even, and I hate to say that, but a lot of times these schools is like, it's not even about passing. It's about just the enrollment. Yeah. And just getting the money, collecting the check, and moving on.
They just need you to come.
They just need you to come. That's why they're like, most schools have their own police, right? To come get you if there's truancies or you not showing up. They come to your house. Where you at? Because the state's giving per child to school $10,000. So when you think about gentrification and how everything works, especially in Texas and Houston, it's free choice, right? Your child, you want the best for your child. So the state says like, hey, you can go to any school you want in this district as long as you can get them there. You're going to be like, oh, my zone school may not have everything I need for my kid, but I can drive them 20 minutes over here to this particular campus that has, banks and all this other cool stuff in there. You're going to be like, I want my kid to have that. And it's free because it's public school, right? So as a parent, you're going to be like, I'm going over there. Boom. Now you go from Y to X. Now what happens is you just left Y. $10,000. You just moved $10,000. Not the state. You did it. Yeah. So enough parents move their kids from their homeschool, we're literally taking our own money away from ourselves. And so now when the school doesn't have a lot of money, you can't fund programs. You can't have enough good food. You can't have these extra that y'all get mad about because of where all the stuff is at. There's no money here. But you did it, and you're yelling at the folks that had no control over it. So now when that happens, when enough people do that, enough people move, the company's like, yo, well, there's nobody going to school here. There's nobody spending money here. There's no families here spending money for at least 18 years. We finna go.
I'm out.
It's not about racism. It's about economics. So they're following where the money's going, right? So when they move, now the property value's low. The schools are horrible. There's nothing for kids to have jobs. So at this point, the neighborhood's just in shambles. So now when people want to move in, it's very cheap. And the school is empty for their kids. And then they uptick it. And now when they move back in, property value goes up. If you don't have enough means to go up $1,000, $200, you pushed out.
Yep.
And that's how gentrification actually starts, and that's how it actually works.
And now I can just close that school. If it doesn't suit the new purposes of the community, I can just close it now.
So what they're telling y'all, it's not even y'all are doing all the work, and they are making you feel like it's legislation. And a part of that is, but it's a part of the community not knowing how the educational business works.
So, okay, let me say, when it comes to, obviously I know the solution to it, but.
What is it? I'm curious.
as far as what you're saying is bringing back the
Equity back to the
equity
community.
back into the community, right? So if that's the solution, right? Is there a conversation? And again, this isn't like a you thing, but like, is this a conversation of like, are we educating the community, like the people in the community? So like, if you're doing what you're doing, are you also talking to parents?
We're starting that phase now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I think, we started Reading Rapper in 2018. Like Doug said, we did it for 2 years for free. We were doing demonstrations for the city council members, the mayor, teachers, stuff like the Microsoft store before COVID. So we were really ahead of the curve. And we were saying, like, if we don't change education, we're going to be in trouble. Then COVID happened, which exposed education at the highest level, right? So after that, we were able to position ourselves when George Floyd was assassinated. We were like, okay, these companies made all these different promises, right? They actually chose us. Nike actually chose us. We just didn't really care about the optics of letting people know, like, we working with Nike. We're like, what are we doing to get out of this issue? So, like, we quietly invested $250,000 to HISD, renovating classrooms, especially schools that are NES schools that have been taken over. We were already there, fixing the issue. But there was a bigger narrative coming in from the state that got swept over because a lot of these schools were doing really well, but you didn't really know because you were so caught up in what was going on at HISD with Mike Miles and the superintendent and forgetting that there's kids here. The schools are actually doing really good, but it's only a couple schools doing what they need to do. So now we're at the point where we have a great teacher community. We just hired and brought on some new teachers. We just closed an actual deal with Harris County to service all 24 school districts till 2030. Right?
We just recently acquired our own building now, so now we can do our own D2C, direct to consumer, where parents can bring their kids to us. Yep. So now we're not just predicated on being in the schools. Parents can bring their kids directly to us, and they can do our program. They can do all the new developmental programming that we're doing, all the supplementary aids that we're building.
As a family,
Yep.
As you say, I want just my child to go do it. Great. I want to do it with my child. Great.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that's like, explain more about some of those.
Yeah,
services.
so we're opening up the first Edutainment Resource Community Center. It's like if you put a school mixed in with Boys and Girls Club, mixed in with like Apple, morphed all into one. So we can do private individual tutoring, family tutoring, master classes. We also rent out the space for people to use for events, right? We have podcasting networks there. We have multiple multimedia rooms, production spaces. So we're able to give out certifications, right? We're giving cities certifications. So it's almost like we are reimagining trades because, like this podcast, there's people running this, right? There's a trade. You can now go teach other kids the same thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, you brought up some really good things. So through all of this, right, I'm assuming, because you're leading into it, it's not just reading. There's other,
yeah.
What's like, 'cause
Everything.
in like when I went to the event the other day, I mean, I was honestly blown away just by it was resources, it was videos, it even
came?
yes.
Which one? When?
Really?
It was a lot of people.
The Hive.
Yo,
Yes.
man, okay. Listen, we interface with so many people.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry,
good.
but we interface with so many people.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you saw everything.
Yeah, so I did see everything. So that was, to me, it was really eye-opening. When you speak on innovation, like, that's what I saw. And it was just a lot of like light bulb things and of like, oh, you guys are reimagining, like, the whole structure of it really. Like, it's when I was seeing the what was it, like the animation or whatever, that to me was, I don't know, like the videos that you guys saw in school, the like the grammar ones.
Yep.
I'm not gonna go, but I know the rhymes and stuff. That was like what I was thinking in my head of like, it's going deeper. So like, what other, go into that part. Like, what other?
Yeah, we're currently in development of early childhood, pre-K, math, financial literacy, but all in our ethos of hip hop and culture.
Yeah.
We'll eventually touch everything.
I know we're aggressively looking at ESL.
Okay.
Right,
Spanish,
we're looking at going to a whole Spanish derivative and culturally from that side. So for us, we were like, we can't introduce all these other things to people if they can't understand what's in front of them.
Right.
And most of these organizations and groups are like, let's just give them STEM. Let's just give them math and tech. But like, they
Robotics, yeah.
can't read. So
None
if
of
you
that
can't read
matters.
and write, you can't do nothing else. Right? So I think the reason why we have so much leverage because we start at the root of how just people learn. And we can reverse engineer everything backwards from there.
Yeah. And I mean, just off of that too, I mean, I was thinking today of this interview and just how important it was to also have you guys on the first episode because language, as you guys have explained, really is, I mean, you think about my child right now is still not talking and he's 17 months. That is that. It's you learn to crawl, then you walk, and then you learn to express yourself. And if you can't do that, that cuts out a lot. That cuts out, you have kids that, myself included, that sometimes don't know how to express myself and my emotions or how to speak, you know, and say what is really on my mind, but I don't know how to say it because maybe I haven't read enough books or had certain experiences to even vocalize that. You know, I'm sure this is also giving kids some sort of confidence.
I was just getting ready to
You
say,
know,
That's
like,
100% what it is.
I think, but that is the magic sauce. You can't test confidence. Standardized test, you can't even, where do you even gauge it?
Yeah.
Right? If anything, a lot of times kids are going to school with already problems at home or things around it or things that happen at school. So every day that confidence is just getting stripped away. Day by day. Not only for the kid, for the teacher.
Yeah.
For the administrator, right? Sometimes we don't think about principals. They don't have the luxury of having a sub. Sometimes they have their own kids. They got to watch other people's kids. Right? So yeah, I think we got lost in this thing because we're all supposed to be here for the kid. And we're not, we've gone away from that. It's like, oh, I don't like you as an adult now, which by default hurts the kids.
And that's going to bring me into my next thing is like, I think one of the biggest things, and I've learned it through friends, like people that, like you mentioned, I have, you know, friends that wanted to go through, like you said, through sports and education, you know, their GPA, whatever, prevented them from doing that. So when it comes, I feel like really what we're all saying is it really does take a village. And I think in having a different mindset about that, it's not
100%.
just the teachers just saying something to you and you have to regurgitate it. It's thinking about it critically, but it's also being engaged in, like you guys said, meeting kids where they're at. And so in regards to community, like I know I kind of wanted to start off the podcast with this, but I want you guys to, like, what's your community like when you guys were kids? Like, how do you guys kind of take that with you? Because I feel like that's always like the starting point, you know?
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
For me, I was raised by the village, right? Like I grew up in church. I'm an Eagle Scout. My Boy Scout troop was in the church. So I had nothing but men around me a lot, 2-parent household. My dad was a part of the actual administration that opened up the high school I went to. My mom I can see her at everything I was doing.
This is in Houston.
Yeah. So like I've literally had the village around me per se, and my community was involved, right? My perspective, I've seen healthy marriages on both sides of my side. You know, my parents been married for 38 years, my grandparents 60 plus, and my other grandparents today literally transitioned, right? So I've literally seen stabilization since my inception. I've never really seen anything broken, right? So my perspective on things is a little bit more optimistic. And I'm always more in a solution-oriented mode because when things happen, because they will, it's about how we attack those things when they happen, right? And even in all of that, having that, sometimes parents can put subconscious pressure on your kid to be the best, which can be counterproductive, which is a form of stress, which is a form of negativity because once I struggled on my standardized test because of how I was the first one to graduate, first one to go to college, all this first stuff, I didn't feel comfortable going to my parents letting them know I'm struggling. So they didn't even know I was going through all this stuff in high school. They didn't know I was really mentally trying to figure this out. And it took me like really to the last, I'm going to take the test like 4 times. My mom was like, do you pray to God to help you? I'm like, yeah. I'm not. I'm 16 years old, you know, just trying to like get her out of my business, trying to go in my room, do my thing. And, you know, I asked God to help me. I got on my knees. I passed that test by 1 point. Right. So I can say that my parents have been here. My village has been here since my inception. broken or not, there's always been somebody around saying like, let's make sure that Jiren is good, or let's get what he needs. If he wants a camera, let's buy him a camera. If he wants to go to production, let's feed that. It was never like we can't do it. I never heard that of like what you can't explore, what you can't go be, or whatever. It's just like, let's figure it out. So I apply that to everybody that I'm around now. Let's figure it out.
Now, for me, growing up in New York, I definitely grew up in I grew up with a single mom for a majority of my adolescence. So she would work 3-4 jobs at times. I had 3 other brothers and sisters. So we would be home alone a lot, right? I have one older sister, so she would be with us all the time. And I think in terms of a neighborhood, there was some sort of village, because something that's very unique to New York that I really treasure now as an adult, I was gifted with a very global environment, and I never had to leave my neighborhood. So I see such a value in that now when I go other places and I see other things. It's like, man, I was able to grow up, and my best friend was Puerto Rican and Dominican, and his mom would only talk to me in Spanish. So I learned Spanish growing up because that's how I communicated with his mom, and I was there all the time. And vice versa. He was at my house all the time. I had a Jewish family across the street, and they had a son that we were really good friends with. Next to them, there was an Italian kid, and we were really close to him. So I grew up in this very melting pot of all these different cultures, and everybody was poor. So it wasn't really like a hierarchy or nothing like that. We were all in the same place, and we were all doing the same things. So I got to experience their cultures. I got to live their cultures on a day-to-day basis for many years. And for a lot of times, people have to travel to get that experience, and I did it. But at the same time, there was a lot of things, traumas that I experienced and all these different things, but I never let that become who I am. And I always saw a side of that. I think that's what reading gave me, honestly. I was a big reader as a kid. My mom, escapism. My mom would take us to the library a lot. And I think another thing about growing up in New York, I had access to a lot of libraries. I had access to a lot of museums. And that's where I found like a lot of my solace as a kid. So I would go to these places and I would sit there and read for hours. My mom had to go to work. She'd go drop us off there. We'd be reading until she got off. And even with museums, I go to museums. They'd be free for kids under a certain age. I go there and I'd read every placard. But that was like, what I enjoyed. And that's something that gave me, escapism, as Jiren said, outside of my environment and the things I had to experience and all these types of things. So I really appreciate that now. And I see the value of where that got me today. Because it didn't let me sit or internalize a lot of the things I could be complaining about or be upset about, or still to this day as an adult. But it showed me another route, and it showed me another way to where I could use my imagination and see other things another way for myself outside of what statistically I was supposed to be. Right. So, and I see a ton of value in that now. That's why it's so important that kids read, and that we do find innovative ways to get kids to learn and read, because no matter what you're going through, that could be your way, like it was for me. So by not reading and not experiencing those things, you're trapping yourself. You're not going to be able to see anything else because you never saw it. Right. So yeah.
No, it's beautiful, and I really do appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's, like I said, I think just as somebody just, of course, interested in education, but I don't even want to put it that way, because I like we're saying it's not a education's for one person. Like, we all have family members, we all have nieces and nephews, cousins. Like, we all need this to some degree. And I kind of want to start wrapping it up, but before I get to the last point, this is Legacy Circle. So the question I always ask people is, what is a legacy that you guys want to leave behind?
Man, it's funny though. Our first nonprofit is called Legends Do Live.
Yeah. I saw that.
So we believe there's a legend in everybody, no matter what age you are. I think our ultimate, if I can speak for both of us,
okay, yeah.
I think our ultimate, legacy that we want to leave is that we were able to build a new industry and leave it for generations to come. For us, you said it right, we're not education industry. We're not the entertainment industry. Doug and I have created the edutainment industry. We own the regulation, the patents, the governance, the IP. We own that. We created infrastructure. So infrastructure allows us to have unlimited freedom and creativity because there's nobody above us telling what we can't do. We're the actual founders of the entire thing. So I think leaving a legacy for people to find and create more new things that we might not even see or have our lifetime to be here, I think that's our legacy. You know, he has a son, I want to have kids, leaving something to our kids to have, to grow in, to kind of keep building and, of course, generational
See
wealth.
themselves within it. Yeah. For generation.
What for yourself?
To that same sentiment, building something that everyone will be able to see themselves in the future. And not only on the edutainment industry, but specifically in that education industry, it's just building an entire system, new system around education. Because we see that the current one is not the system that needs to be happening anymore.
It's the oldest in America.
And it's the oldest industry in America that hasn't modernized. Everything else is modernized except for education. So we took that step to modernize it. And I think that'll have lasting generational benefits way beyond us, like Jiren said. And I think it takes a special kind of person to build something that you really might not even see the end of. So I appreciate the journey, and I'm excited for what will happen in the future, because our kids, your kids, everyone's kids essentially will benefit from the work that we're doing. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And so if you guys could just share how people can reach you, Instagram, social media, all that stuff.
For sure. You can reach me at Jiren Small, JarenSmall, and that's on all social media platforms.
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram at The Art of Douglas and Douglas Johnson on all social media platforms.
And if you want to get in touch with Reading with a Rapper, you can visit readingwitharapper.com. We're getting ready to come out with our very first summer camp called Cultureverse. We'll be introducing Reading with a Rapper, but also introducing a new hip-hop spelling bee. Yeah, so that's going to be really cool that we're really excited about. So we got summer camp coming up this summer from June to like July 3rd. It's a whole month camp, half day. You can drop your kids off, or they're going to get better and have some good time.
Yeah. Spots open up March 20th.
Yep.
I love that. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. This was a blast.